Okay, thanks for joining. Now, so where we are. So what we'll do is when we have object one and object two, when we think that it's having a many-to-many relation, we're going to create one more object called a junction object. And here we create only two fields. That is, one is relation to the first object and second is relation to the second object. And if whatever the thing you think like object one is having multiple records to object two, how many multiple means you have like three, four, how many connections you're going to have. For each connection, you're going to create one record. So that one record will be, so okay, object one. So let's say OB1 is first record. I'll type it here so that it will be more clear. OB1, I'll say it as a 1, 1. OB1, 2. OB1, 3. OB1, 4. OB have this. Similarly, I want to have on the right side also. OB2 and OB2 to OB2 3, OB2 4. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is first I will erase and then take the first one. So I will have OB1, 1 here, and then we have a OB2, 1 is a one relation. Similarly, when we take the next, so how we have a relation OB1, 1 to OB2, 3, right? OB1, 1 to OB2, 3, and then we have OB1, 1 to OB2, 4. Like this. So what we're going to do is how many relations. So each line here you see as a each relation. For each line, we're going to create a each record. So do you think are we wasting any space or do you think it's going to a complex here? So we're giving it as an optimized way, but we're trying to maintain a many to many. When you want to find how many childs it have for object 1, 1, then you can see you'll go to the junction object and you will see in the first field object 1 field how many are the object 1, 1. You see, okay, I have a 3 relations. Similarly, if the two they might have a relation, then they might not have a relation. When we say many to many, it will be 0 to n number of connections from left to right and right to left. They might have a connection, they might not have a connection, but if they have a connection, then just we'll create a one junction record. So we are not giving any blanks, we're not maintaining any blanks, just we are trying to optimize. So in Salesforce, this is how we create a junction objects and establish many to many relationship. So first one we explained is one to many. Here, this is many to many, how we create. And one more example is there a possibility that we're trying to do a self relation. The self relation is there are some scenarios. Let's say our example of school, where there are schools who they're having a branches. Let's say Chetan Arena, all are like the owner or a corporate or proprietor, everybody will be same, but they open a different branch across the cities. But still, they're all from a same college, means same brand or whatever you think. So in that case, what's happening? So there will be common information again, but like the address and branch and again the permissions, everything will be different for the school. But we want to know how this schools are like self-organized. So they have kind of a tree structure, right? Okay, we having a medical college. Okay, so in medical college, how many branches you have? Okay, I have a engineering colleges. How many engineering colleges you have? Okay, I have a degree college. How many you have? We have a junior colleges. How many we have? We have a schools. How many? So there are a possibility. It's kind of a tree structure or a self relation. So in a simpler way, how we can understand was, so you have a one college, and in the so the they feel that they're doing good, and they have opened in one more stream called study. One is engineering, one is medical, degree. Both are different kind of educations, right? So they have this kind of thing. Then how we are going to handle this kind of scenarios? They are like all are like similar information. They don't have any different informations. But the thing was, we want to know who is the owner or who is the common person driving the business. So in these scenarios, what we'll do is all schools or colleges will be in the same object only, but we have to know which is a parent company or a parent college from where all this has been originated. So we want to know like that. So the thing, but in in our terms, what we call it as a self relation. So when we have a object, I mean, where we are storing all colleges, and then what we call it as a, we relate one record with the other record in the same object. So what we call that relation is a self relation. The self relation is something that we relate to the same record in the object. Not drawing well. If you have same record and then we have a relation, then what we'll do was we'll create a relationship field, and that relationship will field will not going to look at some other object. It will look at the same object. So it's going to be a, so when you're trying to create a record and you're trying to do a relation, whatever you do a search there, it will be already created records will be shown up there. So you have to search for what is the existing record that's going to be parent, and you have to save it. So this is the one type of relation called a self relation. Okay, any questions now? As I'm going to explain one more, and then we'll jump on to the fields, how to create them. And there's some more theory I need to explain before I need to jump on to the actually creating the things. Okay, there is one more relation called a hierarchical relation only in Salesforce. So this is also self-relation, also kind of hierarchical relation, but we don't create hierarchical relation. If you want to create hierarchical relation means what we create is nothing but a self-relation. Though in Salesforce, there's an object called user. So we create a set of users, right? Where we create a profile, role, license, and we'll create a user, right? There we have, if you remember, there's one field called a manager field. That will be nothing but other user in an org. So that is kind of hierarchical relation where the users report to some person, and again the person will report to some other person. It kind of a tree structure. That is what the relation by default Salesforce give only in the object user is called a hierarchical relation. This is, I'm telling for your knowledge what are different relations in Salesforce available. So for what we covered, hierarchical relation only available in user object, self relation, we can create relation to the same object, and one to many relation, many to many relation. Clear so far? What are different types of relations we have available? Now I will move on to the actual topic now. Now, what is the actual topic I am saying was, so when, if you remember or if you are observing, when we're creating before a field, there are fields called lookup relationship and master detail relationship. Okay, first we will discuss about a master detail relationship. So before we are jumping on to a master detail relations, please let me know if you have any questions.
So you said hierarchical relationship, right? So only user object is the example. I mean, is the I think
Yeah,
I.
only user object have a hierarchical
Mm.
relation in Salesforce. If you want to establish similar relation, what we call that as a self relation. What we create anything called a self relation. Uh, Only in a user object it is called as a hierarchical relation. Why we are saying a hierarchical relation was we are trying to capture the people who are reporting to the next one, and those people to whom they have reported. It's kind of a tree structure hierarchy. So in if your business, in your organization, how the people will be, one will report to the other, again the other will report to the one other person. It's kind of
Mm.
a tree structure. That's why we call it as not we, Salesforce is saying it as a hierarchical relation. Similar function we build in our custom objects as well. That is called a self relation. Nothing but hierarchical is nothing but a self relation.
Mm.
But only in user object we call it as a hierarchical relation. Both are same only. Self and hierarchical both are same. But why we using it? It's kind of a reporting to the people. That's why we calling it as a hierarchical in user object. Okay, so we have a one relationship when you're creating a new field is a master detail relationship. Okay, what is a master? What is the detail here? So master is something called a parent, and detail is something called a child. So we understand, right? What is mean by a parent and what is mean by a child. Similarly, when we have a master detail relationships, so you have to understand when you're saying a master object, nothing but a parent object. When you say a detail object, it is nothing but a child object. Can someone tell me? So in a master detail relationship, where we create a relationship field in a master object or a detail object,
Detail.
detail object. So always we create a relationships on a child object. So it's the other way around. Whatever you think, see, wherever you're creating a relationship field, that object is called a detail object. If you're creating a master detail relationship field, then where you're creating, which object you're creating, that object will become a detail object, and you are mapping to some other object, right? The other object is going to call a master object. Why we saying it is a master and detail? Why it's becoming a master in parent? So we have some special features available, or it will gain when you create a master detail relationship. That means when you create a relationship field, obviously what it will do, it will link two different objects using that relation. In a detail object, we are going to store the id of the master record id. That's a common thing, but because it's a relation. When you create a master, so I'm trying to capture the points here. They're really, really, really important. So if you go to whatever the interview you go, the first question will be asked on the relationships, or at least one of the question will be on the relationships. So and they'll dig more deeper into the master data. That's why I'm trying to focus more here. Okay. First point, it is going to be required field. So all, if you create a master detail relationship field, there is no option to whether you can make it as a required or not required field. By default, it will always be a required field. So once you create detail object, sorry, once you create a relationship, master detail relationship on a child object, and next time when you're going to save a record, this field will be always a required field. If you have some records in master detail, then only you can create a detail. Why? Because compulsory you have to select one master as a parent, right? If you don't have a records, then how you will select, or how you will create a child record? So first you have to create master record, then only you have to create child record. It is a required field. And then you can create master detail relation field only when there is no records in detail object. That means when you create a detail object and there are some records are created in detail object, then you cannot create a master detail relationship. You can create any field anytime in object, whether they have a records or they don't have a records, whatever the case it is, you can create any field. But master detail relationship field is available only if you don't have any records in that object, then only you can create a master detail relationship. Okay, then how can I create? So already have some thousands or hundreds of records in a detail object or any object. I want to create a master detail relationship. How you can create? So when you have existing records in detail, there are two ways. You have to delete them and create master detail relation field, and then you can create the records again. And second thing was, no, I have like millions and thousands of records, I cannot delete those. Then how we can do was the second option, create lookup relation first. So lookup relation is one more relationship we're having. We're going to cover it later. So first we have to create a relationship, lookup relationship, and populate all parent records on child records, then convert lookup to a master detail relationship. Let me know if you're not able to follow. We can explain there itself. Don't wait till we complete. So you cannot create. Why? Because okay, now we have the point why. We have all the records existing. Let's say 1,000 or 100 records you have. And if you create a new master detail relationship field, how it will existing records, how you will fill the data. It will be blanks only, right? For existing data. Why? Because its field is coming new. It's going to be blank. But master detail is a required field. Then how this required field will exist for existing records? So what we have to do was we have to create different relationship and then populate all the values. Okay, once you have all connections, then you can convert that lookup into a master detail. Then the master detail conditions will satisfy to become a master detail relations. Every child should have a parent record. That is a master detail relationship. Not only it's required, and again, the default feature is having a reparenting. That is, let's say you have a one, you have created a master detail relationship. Okay, that means one child must have a master. 100 details, 100 records. It must have a parent record. It might be same master record or parent record or different master or parent records. It could be same record or multiple records. But in master details relationship, by default, you will be having an option called a reparenting. By default, that means if you're not selecting any, if you're not looking at all the options available when you're creating a field, by default, master detail relationship is not reparentable. That means once you have given a parent record in a detail object, that means you created a, so we have seen one example, right? You have object one and object two have some records, and you have selected as a one school. If you not observing everything and just created, okay, you think that the student has switched to a different school now, so you want to change that relationship, or like from school one to school two, you have to change. It will not allowed by default. Only if you check that box called allow reparenting box, then only the master detail relationship allow you to change the master record on a child record. By default, master detail relationship is not a reparentable. We can change it so that reparenting is allowed. Can you now you understand what is mean by a reparenting? Reparenting means changing the uh, parent of one child record to a different parent. That is called a reparenting. That can be allowed only if you are allowing the checkbox. Then only you can do a reparenting. One point. Again, we can create now. Coming to a summarize, why we have so many restrictions here, why we have to go for a master detail relationship. Why? Because they're providing some capabilities. We can create a roll up summary fields on master object. So what is the roll up summary? We can do a count, sum, max, and minimum values can be calculated. That means, let's say if you have a master record and detail record, and you have 100 detail records to the master. So how many detail records you have on a master? You want to calculate the count. Then how you can create? You can create a roll up summary field. This is also one of the custom field type called a roll up summary field. Once you have a master detail relationship, then only on the master you can see the roll up summary field, and this all the functions we can do: count, sum, max, and min you can do based on the child records. Again, there are so many things on roll up summary that we can discuss when we're discussing a roll up summary fields. So the roll up summary fields are only available when the two objects are having a master detail relationship, and only master object can create the roll up summary fields. Okay, fine. Now okay, what we have again is, so it's a required field, right? So hundreds of detailed records will have a master. So what happens if I delete a parent record? If parent record is deleted, just think what will happen. In child records, it is mandatory, required to have a parent record. That means detail should have a master. When you delete a master, already there will be some records in detail that are linked to a master. Let's say 10 detail records linked to a master, and you are deleting a master record. What will happen? You know what will happen? It will delete all detail records linked to master record. That means if you delete one master, it will delete all child records associated to it. Okay, what happens if you undelete it? You remember how we do undelete? There is a recycle bin option. You can go to recycle bin, you can undelete the records. When master is undeleted, all detail records will also undeleted. Okay, when you delete, it will go everything together, and if you undelete, it can come as together. But you cannot undelete a detailed record. You have only option to undelete the deleted master records. You even cannot see the detailed records that are deleted in the recycle bin also. You can only see the master record. Fine. Now, what else we have? There is a call sharing and security. Okay, before going to that, we have owner field. So if you remember yesterday we had discussed, there are something called standard fields. One of the field is a owner ID. Owner ID is nothing but who is the owner of that record. When we have a master detail relationship, no owner, no owner ID field. Okay, I'll put it better way. Owner ID, owner ID field is not available for detail object. Then who will be the owner? Owner of the master record will be the owner of the detailed records as well. Yes, I'm going to have cover two more points and wrapping up. Um, all good here. So we don't have a owner ID for a detail record. We have only for the master record, we have owner. Whoever the owner for the master record, they will be considered as a owner for the detail records as well. And there is something called sharing and security. Sharing and security of a detail record will be controlled by sharing and security. Sharing and security of the master record. We have not covered sharing yet. So when we cover the sharing, then we will have a more details what actually sharing means. Okay, so sharing means who can access that records. That means nothing but sharing. So you have created one record, so you can see it. You are the owner, and you can see the record. Similarly, there will be hundreds and thousands of users in an organization. They have their own records. There will be some cases you have to look at what are other people created the records in your object. So you have 100 users created 100 records. So you have total 10,000 records. So even though you have not created, you might have to see the others records. How you see the records? If they shared record with you, or you have organization setting such a way that you are able to view all the records in your object from your organization. That's how you're sharing. So you have some conditions, you share some records with some users, some records with some other users based on certain criteria, or some based on some rules. It's all come in the sharing that we'll explain later. So these all certain things, they're nothing for separately have for a detailed record. Everything that have on the master record will be inherited by the child records. Whatever it is for the master, same will be applied to the child record, that is detail records as well. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to see how to create a master detail relationship and things like that. Okay, what all options available there, and just we're going to repeat all this by seeing the screen,
Hmm.
and we'll cover lookup as well tomorrow, and we'll see if we are missing any points. We'll cover tomorrow. Okay, any questions? Please go ahead, and we'll wrap up.
So question on seventh point, you said when the master is undeleted. So, once the delete is done, undeleted.
Hmm.
All the detailed records are also undeleted, or we cannot find detailed records.
That's what. So when you delete a master record, you go to recycle bin, you can see the master record. But in backend, what's happening when you delete a parent, that's the master record, detailed records also will delete. I mean, get deleted. But if you go to recycle bin, you see only one record called a master record, but you cannot see the detailed records. Why? Because individually you cannot undelete the detailed records. You can only undelete a master record, and you can see it. Once it is undeleted, automatically all details that are deleted along with the master will also get undeleted. That means all will be back when the master is back.
Hmm. Okay.
Still, it's that makes sense, or
Yeah, it makes sense.
okay.
Just that in bracket, right? I did not understand. It was contradicting the point, but it does it
Okay.
automatically. So
When master is undeleted, all detailed records will also undeleted. Okay, maybe I'll put it in a good sentence when you share the notes.
yeah.
Thing was, when master is undeleted, detailed records will also get undeleted. That means undeleted in sense it will back to the normal form. It's not in the deleted.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Just go through these points. Yes, I will try to share this notes for now. So just rewind and make a more clarity. Usually when some question asked in interview, try to cover as much as possible you can cover out of these points. That will be a good impression when you have that in your interview. Okay, we're going to close now. Please let me know if you have any questions.